Hi, I'm Colin with Blue Marble Consulting, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate SAP's purchase order process. What we'll do is start off by creating a purchase requisition, and in this example we'll be buying some monitors. After that, we will transition into creating a purchase order, followed by looking at the release strategy or the approval process, completing the goods receipt and invoice receipt, and then finally wrapping up by looking at some reporting. So to begin the process, we'll create the purchase requisition, and this is the transaction used to do so. Up in the top left, we have our order types, so if you create different types of purchase requisitions, we can use this and report on it. And down towards the middle here, we have one line item for LCD screens. We're going to be purchasing 150 of these, and we can see that it's assigned to the IT material group. We also have our plant and storage location, and finally the purchasing group. Now this purchasing group will be factored into the approval process, and I will discuss that a little bit further down the line. Down at the bottom here we have our valuation, so what these are priced at. We have our total value of $45,000, and we also have the GL that will be hit when we buy these, as well as the cost center, and the cost center in this case is office expenses. So once we're ready to post this, all we need to do is go up to the save icon, and now we have created a purchase requisition. Now the next step is to create a purchase order, and the transaction looks very similar to the purchase requisition transaction. And there are a few ways to pull in this purchase requisition. One of them is to use this document overview area. And we can see down on the left, I have all of my purchase requisitions that my user has created. This pane is useful also for pulling up other things like purchase orders or RFQs, contracts, and other items like that. So we can open up my purchase requisition, and if we expand this window, we can look at some more information related to this specific requisition. And all I need to do is pull this into the purchase order area and enter a vendor. So what we'll do is pull up the list of all of our vendors, choose one, and that's really the only information that we need to add to the purchase order before posting this. Now before I post this, there are a few other things I'd like to mention, one of which is the three-way match, which in this scenario we have implemented. And the three-way match consists of the purchase order, the goods receipt, and the invoice receipt. So we can see that we have our goods receipt ticked and our invoice receipt ticked. And what this does is prevents payment from being made to a vendor without both the invoice receipt being completed and the goods receipt being completed. Also, we have a few release strategy objects within the purchase order area that we can use to set up our approval process. So if I open up the header, we can see that we have some information up here like purchasing organization, purchasing group, and company code. The purchasing group is used in this situation to basically divvy up different levels within different departments. So to visualize this a little bit better, this IT department here is what we have set up for this example that I'm running through. So we have our administrator who is set to level 1 of this approval process, and they can approve of purchase orders up to $1,000. Like this, less than. And then we also have our supervisor who is authorized to approve another certain amount from 1,001 to 5,000. And then finally our manager who can approve of any purchase orders greater than $5,000. And we can set this up for other departments. For example, I put together a maintenance department here, really just the same thing with different amounts. In these departments in SAP I have set up as different purchasing groups. So that's just one way that you can set those up. And similar to the purchase requisitions, you can also create different purchase order types depending on what kind of purchase orders that you're making. So we'll see this come into play once we save this purchase order. Before we save it, we'll just note that this is for $45,000. So this will need to be approved by the manager since it's greater than $5,000. So we'll go ahead and we will save this and post it. You can see that we have a new purchase order number. Now the next step is to release the purchase order. And this basically will act as a gate between the purchase order and the goods receipt and invoice receipt. So we will put in our purchase order. Now, when a user other than a manager tries to go in and approve of a purchase order that they are not authorized to, this is what the screen will look like. It will be grayed out. They can view information related to the purchase order, but they're unable to edit this. Now, when a manager goes in to edit this, release this purchase order, they'll be able to edit other information on the purchase order, as well as you can see right here, release the purchase order. And you can see that this is hitting that third level for manager. So we'll click release, and then we can go ahead and save it. And now we're able to do the goods receipt and the invoice receipt. So we'll move on to the goods receipt transaction. And all we need to do is enter in our purchase order and hit enter. And really all this is doing is confirming that the goods were received. So we're just going to click item OK and then go ahead and save. You can see that we have the one line item that we've been working with throughout this process. And we will go ahead and post this. Now we have a new material document, which we can take a look at because it is at this step in the process that we're hitting the financial area within SAP. So if we pull up this document, we'll see what accounts were actually hit when we posted this goods receipt. So we'll look at the accounting financial documents. And you'll see that this has hit that GL account, that 727 that I entered in on the purchase requisition initially, debiting that for $45,000, as well as crediting the goods receipt invoice receipt GL for the same amount. And you can also see our purchase order number here, as well as our cost center and some other information up at the top. All right, and now the next step is to enter the invoice receipt. So we can enter in our invoice date, and you can enter in a reference number. This is just a free text field, so you can use this for any way that you see fit. If you want to refer this to a sales order or any other item, you can do so. We'll just put in a reference in there. We'll enter in our purchase order number. We'll hit enter. And we can see that this pulls in all of our information. From here we can drill down into the purchase order, but just by double clicking this to pull up that PO. We can go back here and then we'll enter in the amount on the actual invoice. In this case we'll say that it was for the exact correct amount, and we'll hit enter, and as indicated up at the top you can see that this is ready to be posted. So everything here is good to go. We will post that. You can see now that we have a new document number. So that's the process all laid out, beginning with a purchase requisition to a purchase order, through releasing a purchase order, and then doing the goods receipt and invoice receipt. Now we can take a look at a couple different reports to see what has happened, the first of which being a vendor line item report. Alright, so we can see, we can enter in a vendor here, the company code, and for this example we're just going to run this for all open items for today's date. And we can see here, as indicated by this icon, that this amount is not yet due. We just have this one line item for this vendor for the date range that I selected. And from here we can drill into this document or pull up more information related to this just by double-clicking on the line item. So we can see payment terms, we can see, if we pull up additional data, we can see our reference number. And we can also see our accounting documents from here as well. In addition, we can also even edit some information related to this. So if we click on the edit button, we can then change our payment terms or percentages and even enter in free text. So this is the vendor line item report, just showing that amount that we purchased from this particular vendor. Next, we'll take a look at the purchase order report. And we'll run this for that same vendor. And there's a variety of different report types that are available within SAP. Some are nicer than others. In this case, we'll pull up the ALV report type. And if you remember, this purchasing group is the group that was used to create the purchase requisition and purchase order. And that's all that we're going to enter in here. Now this looks like a lot of information. You can set up different variants which allow you to limit the amount of fields available to be entered. So if we just want to see these first 6 fields, we can hide all of the rest of these to keep this a simple layout. So moving forward, we'll execute the report, and this will pull up all of the purchasing documents by vendor. And we can also run this by materials, purchasing groups, plants, things like that. So you can see for this vendor, we have 3 purchasing documents. You'll notice first we have LCD monitors for all of these. And down at the bottom you can see the purchasing document that we have created in this process. So you can see that there was 150 of those LCD screens sold for $300 each. Other line items will show you how much have still yet to be delivered, as well as still to be invoiced. So you can pull up a lot of information just from this report right here. So that concludes the process for purchase orders within SAP. We ran through the purchase requisition. We pulled that into a purchase order to create a purchase order, which triggered the release strategy. And then we created the goods receipt and invoice receipt, followed by running a few different reports. To see how Blue Marble Consulting can implement a solution like this for you, please visit our website or call our number listed here.